Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of What's the Deal with the Bible, where we take a look at some of the weirder stories in the Bible and try to make sense of them. In today's episode, we're going to look at the Tower of Babel. If you've ever been to a construction site or built anything in your life, then you know that building things is hard. Building something as ambitious as the Tower of Babel would be even harder. So what was the Tower of Babel? And why did God have to destroy it? Let's dig into it. The story of the Tower of Babel can be found in Genesis, chapter 11, verses 1 to 9. In the story, all of the people in the world are gathered together in the land of Shinar, and they begin to build a city with a tower that reaches up to the heavens. The idea is that if they build this tower, then they will become great and famous, and that their fame will never be forgotten. This, of course, is exactly what happens when people try to build great towers even today. Now, while people were building this tower, they had one language and knew how to make bricks. No, the bricks are not the problem here. Bricks are great. They're easy to make. You just need some dirt, some water, and some time. It's the tower part that is a problem. And the reason that it's a problem is because the text says that it reached up to the heavens. That's pretty tall. Now, we don't know exactly how tall the Babylonians thought the heavens were, but we do know that it didn't stop them from trying to reach it. As the people continued to build the tower, the language that they all shared began to change. This made it impossible for them to communicate with each other. No one was able to understand anyone else anymore. People couldn't work together or even agree on what to call the thing they were building. Eventually, the project was abandoned and the tower was never finished. After this, people started to scatter across the earth, and eventually they settled down in different places and created different societies and cultures. The author of this story implies that this is the reason there are so many languages in the world, and the reason that people do not all get along. It is because they tried to build a tower to reach the heavens, and God stopped them by giving them different languages and thus scattering them. So why did God do this? The answer is given in verse 6 to 9. The Lord said, "If as in the days of old they have built themselves a city and a tower whose top reaches up to the heavens, and this they do, is nothing too hard for them. What will they do next? Come, let us go down and there confuse their language, that they may not understand one another's speech." So the Lord scattered them from there over the face of all the earth, and they ceased building the city. Therefore, its name was called Babel, because there the confusion of languages was made by the Lord. So basically, the people wanted to build a tower to the heavens to make a name for themselves. And God was like, "Wait, hold on, guys. You're getting a little too ambitious for my taste." And just to be clear, this isn't the only time that God has done something like this. In the Old Testament, anytime God does something that startles or confuses humans, it's usually because he doesn't like what they're doing. For example, in Exodus, when God hardened Pharaoh's heart so that he wouldn't let the Israelites go, or when he turned water into blood, or made it rain frogs. God did these things to get the people to pay attention to him. And in the case of the Tower of Babel, he did something similar. He confused their language so that they would stop building the tower. What is interesting about this story is that it is really the only one in the Bible where God actually causes a problem for people. In every other story, people cause their own problems, but God is always there to help fix them. But in this story, the people build a tower that God doesn't like, so he makes a big stink about it and confuses their languages. So why did God include this story in the Bible? There are a lot of theories out there. Some people think that the story is meant to teach us not to be too ambitious. Others think it explains why there are so many different languages in the world today. I think the story is meant to teach us that God is in control, not us. All right, everyone. That's a look at the Tower of Babel. Do you think there's any truth to this story? Or is it just a bunch of baloney? Either way, it's definitely an interesting story, it teaches us a valuable lesson. I hope you enjoyed this episode of What's the Deal with the Bible. If you did, please subscribe and leave a like. And if you have any suggestions for future episodes, leave those in the comments. I'll see you next time.